Popcorn Junkies. This is a curious one. Two grown adults reviewing what's essentially feels like should be a kids' movie, because it's Mulan, Disney's Mulan, which is based on, well, it's a live action remake of an original film.
An original cartoon film.
It was originally a cartoon film with a little dragon in it, played by Eddie Murphy, and the dragon was brilliant. I remember Izzy loving it. It was brilliant.
Oh, that's what Kiki asked me, whether there was a dragon in this, and there isn't, is there?
No, there's just a flying sort of phoenix.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a live action remake. You know, in the tradition that Disney are remaking absolutely everything. So you have The Lion King, Jungle Book, Dumbo, Aladdin.
True.
And probably the closest I can think of the remakes that this would sit nearest to, because it's not trying to do CGI, it's not doing animatronics or anything like that. The closest is Aladdin, and I thought Aladdin was quite a successful. The Guy Ritchie Aladdin was quite a successful. Live action retelling of the story. But this is Mulan. Now this comes with a sort of curious backstory insofar as it was literally about to land in the cinemas just as lockdown essentially happened in the Western world. Disney pulled it. They were delaying, and then they decided to only screen it on Disney Plus, their streaming channel. And the rumour mill suggests as part of that, because on the one hand, it's clearly an attempt to woo a Chinese audience.
Yes.
I'd have thought in one level. And the Chinese box office market is hugely significant for all major Hollywood studios. So that was at the front of this, I think, from the get-go. There's then been the Hong Kong riots, of which the young star of this film came out pro-Chinese and anti the Hong Kong protesters, which has led to a huge campaign to boycott watching this film.
How interesting.
In the West. And so it's become a bit of a hot potato for Disney. They haven't quite known what to do with it. It's streaming. They're not really releasing figures on how well it's doing. So that's the kind of political shenanigans that work behind the kind of the making of it, the potential release of it, and the sort of initial political reception of it. We're just going to react to and review the film as a film. But I was definitely coming at this from the perspective of Mulan, the film. And it's a great narrative for young girls. It's about, patriarchal society. Family doesn't have a son. Woman does conceals her sort of gender, proves herself to be a worthy warrior. And is
incredibly
worthy, and so because every son from every family in the land has to go and fight for the empire, this family doesn't have one. She wants to do it so that her dad doesn't have to go, and all that kind of stuff. So it's a very classic story. It's based on a folk tale, blah blah blah. The rest is history. But I think the thing that made the animated film so good was Eddie Murphy as the dragon.
I was going to say...
It's the elephant in the room, or rather the dragon not in the room.
Yeah, I was going to say, this film needs a dragon. It absolutely needs one.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, and a flying sort of thing here or there that looks like a kite a bit anyway is not going to do it.
Okay, well, it stars Yifei Liu, Donnie Yen, Gong Li.
Gong Li, who was a biggie in her day.
Absolutely. So, I had to watch this in 2 sittings. We both watched this in 2 sittings. It's very long.
It is very long.
It's a very long film. It's almost 2 hours. I was struggling from the outset, working out who the hell this was aimed at. Forgetting the Chinese market, we've just established that.
No, we've done that.
What age group? What demographic? Who were they thinking this would appeal to? Because in many ways, it was more like sort of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon in the consideration with which it was shot, or The Last Emperor by Bertolucci. It had, a huge amount of effort went into the look of it.
Yeah, and it looks good.
Yeah.
Ish.
Go on, then tell us what were your feelings watching it? Just give us a stream of consciousness as you watched it.
It does look good. What the problem with the film for me, let's just name it, is that there are some great set action pieces. And they really are great as any of those things can be. But they're very few and far between. Are you referring to the fights and the acrobatics
and the running along walls?
The hordes of warriors.
The hordes,
the hordes coming down onto...
I thought there was one particular set piece towards the beginning of the film, which I thought I was trying to watch it through the eyes of me as an 11-year-old.
Yeah.
I was thinking, let's aim it at an 11-year-old. And I thought that first scene where the sort of dressed in black warriors, ninjas almost, riding across the desert, running up the parapets of the castle. I thought that was really arresting.
Well, it was almost Tenet-like.
It was brilliant.
Yeah.
I thought, I want to be one of those guys who can run up walls.
Yeah, I thought that, and I absolutely agree. And there were a few of those moments in a very long film. Yeah. The problem was all the bits that weren't those bits.
Well, the 11-year-old me got bored immediately after that, because then we went into incredibly long, laborious
exposition,
but
the other thing is that it's actually a very simple story. Girl pretends to be a man, goes off, fights, it has to confess. They don't like it, then they do like it, then that's the end. She's got a boyfriend that she saves, and that they just look at her a few times like this.
Which, do you think the original animators of the original folktale story realised we need to put a dragon in here to keep it interesting?
They so did. Yeah. And I mean, it's not just that it's the sort of action scenes are few and far between. All these sort of exposition, all the talking, all the sort of telling you things, takes hours between each word. So somebody will go, I think that. And it's sort of like you think, yes. And
yeah, I know what you mean. And also there were moments where you felt like, so for example, there was a scene where Mulan stood and looked longingly across the landscape. And I got my Disney live actions mixed up. I thought she was going to hold aloft a baby lion and sing the song from the Lion King.
Because there's sort of some bits that are
there are moments where
orange in the background.
And then I found myself, the 11-year-old me started to think, right, okay, there aren't going to be as many fights. But whenever it was active and fighty, it was good.
It was good.
I have one major quibble with the fight scenes.
Oh, go on.
Whenever they cut into someone on a horse, close up, so you'd have the live action and they'd be standing. They cut into someone on the horse. It was so obvious. Sat doing. Check it out. They cut so the malevolent main man villain.
Yeah, like the
brilliant face.
Mongolian sort of.
Yeah, the Mongolian hordes. Kind of. He looked hideous and horrendous and frightening. All kind of prosthetic-y, scarry stuff going on. I thought he was great. Yeah. He was really menacing. And then they cut into a close up of him.
I didn't notice that.
Awful. And then they did the same with was it Jet Li or Gong Li, the one, the older woman who was on the horse, and so whenever they cut in, that was awful. So
I didn't notice that, and I
punctured the sort of in this day and age, that punctured the sort of
reality,
the 11-year-old boy in me's heat of kind of action.
Yeah.
There were a couple of moments where I thought were kind of quite curious, weren't they? When you think that there are many scenes in this, given what we know or what has been suggested about coronavirus coming from the caves near Wuhan and bats.
Yes.
I mean, there are hordes of flying bats
coming out of caves.
I mean, I wondered whether Disney looked at this film and thought there are so many no-go areas in this. We have to hide this on Disney Plus.
Or we just have to put it out there and just
go with it.
Yeah, just go with it. Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, bats will swirl and then they turn into. There were moments of that were quite good. Those sort of.
Yeah, and they do look sort of arresting.
Yes.
But too far and few and far between.
Yeah, I agree.
The central story as well has got a bit of a problem, and I mean, Kiki just came in and out of it. But even she said behind me, she said that can't be her father. She said grandfather or a great grandfather.
He did look old enough to be a grandfather, didn't he?
So when he steps forward to go to war, except he can't, you think, no,
he can't even step
be
forward,
sensible.
Mate. Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
So,
I mean, I was willing myself to like the sort of village setup and the sort of the settlement.
She's quite good, the girl, isn't she?
Yeah, she was.
And Gong Li is I'm an old flame of Gong Li. She's not given a lot to do. No,
and I mean, I quite like the fact that women united and the fact that there was horror at the thought that a young woman. I mean, on gender politics, it's great, and I can see that. And I thought, I kept thinking to myself, okay, well, the 11-year-old girl in me think this is great too. It was in desperate need of a sense of humour.
It so was.
It was so worthy.
Yeah, it was.
And you can't be worthy with such a fantastical story, not in this day and age where, so many sort of epic fantasy tales, whether it be Marvel or DC or whatever, have an ability to turn on a dime. There were no really funny moments. I mean, they tried to get a bit of humour with her and amongst her garrison, with the other guys.
Yeah, she had her team of men, didn't she?
Yeah.
And one of them was the sort of, sort of bloke who was always looking a bit shamefaced and everything. But then there's her boyfriend, as I say. But no, there was no humour.
No humour. It was just a bit boring. And then in terms of the special effects, I thought some of the set pieces, as we said, were good. But then towards the end, you made a very interesting parallel. I felt like in the final fight scene, which was happening in a curious setting of scaffolding, which I couldn't work out really.
Yeah, no, I couldn't either.
And it very much felt like it had been structured in that way simply to be put in a studio and convenient.
Yeah,
there was one point which I couldn't help but roar out laughing with. Was where her and the villain, the guy, were fighting, and then they jump on a big beam of wood.
That's right, yes.
And I thought, what are we? Is this a high-rise block of what? Where is this? What are they building? Anyway, I thought that was a bit ridiculous. But in that scene,
it was ridiculous.
The parallel you drew was it was a bit like watching the Chinese state circus.
Yeah.
Or the Cirque du Soleil.
Yeah,
I felt we were getting more running along walls.
All in sequence and yeah.
Rather than and so I it's not to say that
there's
those
something
weren't
about
good.
lots and lots of people in unison doing the same thing, and which is watchable.
Yes.
And one does watch that, but far too few and far between, and nothing to go with it.
No. Did you find it beautifully shot?
Not really. There's some nice landscapes, but you could also see green screen terribly everywhere.
Yeah.
And
Especially with the two.
I'm amazed I didn't notice that.
They may as well have had their hand like that. It's like all this sophistry, and then
I'm usually right on that because of it being horses. I don't know why I missed that.
It wasn't the horse part of it. It was the fact that they were clearly shooting a close-up of their face.
No, I get that, but usually because I'm interested in the horse bits, I usually get that.
So I found it really arduous.
I did.
And this, guys, is with us really forced. I was really forcing myself to look at it through the eyes of an 11-year-old boy. Then I looked at it through the eyes of an 11-year-old girl. Then I tried to look at it through the eyes of a 14-year-old boy. Then I started to try and look at it as, is this about a cultural appreciation? Is this about something that's more... It didn't feel like it was aimed at a Disney audience.
No, but at the same time, it didn't feel like it was like, as you mentioned Last Emperor earlier, it didn't feel like it was aimed at a higher level audience either, because they didn't give us any of the sort of actual historical things that we could have maybe done something with in our heads.
Because it's a folktale which is disputed as to whether it's actually authentic.
Yeah. So literally all we got was the village. Pardon?
So who was it aimed at?
It felt like it was a film of lots and lots of different pieces, and they looked at what they'd got in the edit at the end and thought, we'll put all these together. We're really not sure about the bats, but we're just going to have to go with it because the bats are the most arresting bit of it.
They were quite arresting. I mean, I did like that bit actually on the battlefield where they would dive bombing.
Absolutely. And I thought the bits, as you said, where they were running up walls, but that is pure Tenet. So if you've seen Tenet, you get the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I found the Phoenix a bit crap. It was like a kite.
Absolute crap. What the hell? I mean, that was when Kiki came in behind me and went, is that the dragon? I said, no. She said, oh, it's
it desperately needed, I mean, I never thought I'd say this, but it desperately needed some Eddie Murphy dragon voice.
I mean, even the sort of, I suppose, the central sort of transformation is Gong Li turning into a falcon, and then she's even got the arm, she keeps putting the arm. But even that was nothing.
No.
I mean,
I liked her talons. She had real talons.
That's what I'm saying. She did. But other than that.
Okay, well, let's sum it up. I mean, in my summary, I think this is the low benchmark, low watermark, whatever, it's low, of Disney live action remakes. I don't understand the point of it. If it was a move designed to kind of harness the Chinese box office, well, obviously the timing of everything at the moment is ghastly in terms of China, the coronavirus and all that kind of stuff. I don't think it's necessarily going to float with China. Maybe it will. I don't know.
No, I didn't feel it would either.
No, I don't know why. It felt too American. It felt like a very Western view of America again. I didn't feel it was aimed old enough. It certainly didn't have enough in it for young enough. I was fidgeting. Some of the scenes just needed to be so chopped down. And it was gappy. You could have lost 10 minutes by just trimming some of the waiting to answer things. So I would give this a resounding 10 out of 100.
Okay.
10 only for the fact that there was some... I got a moment of kind of childhood excitement at the battle scenes.
Yes, I did too.
I mean,
to sum up for me is all the stuff that you've said, except, my main thing that I'd put at the beginning of anything that I said was it needed a dragon. Just take that for granted. It was far too slow, far too long. Even I felt
serious.
Yeah, and I felt like when you say did it look nice? I mean, they didn't even make an effort with that because it was so clearly green screened. So you couldn't sort of say, oh, well, that was nice. Say like The Lion King or something was. So there wasn't that. Gong Li I'm a huge fan of, but she was given nothing to do. The girl who played the main girl, I thought she was watchable, but she was given nothing to say. Nothing. She just kept appearing. Hair up, boy, hair down, girl. And then, her group. And I would give it 16. 16? Yeah.
God, that came from that came left field. That came like the bats.
16.
16.
And mainly for the bats.
Mainly for the bats. Okay, well there you go, guys. Tell us what you think.
Yeah.
For more film and family fun, don't forget to click the subscribe button and make sure to click the bell to never miss an update.